This is going to be an interesting discussion.
Uh-huh.
So I gave you all the stuff to look at. Were you as confused as I was?
There's 2 roads you can take with this figure.
Yeah.
And it's going to be explored as soon as possible here. As soon as we get
as soon as we get comfortable.
Comfortable here. Exactly. Yeah. The question, was she or wasn't she?
And the question is, did someone else take her name and cause this confusion with some of the stuff we came up with?
Exactly. Yeah. And a big enough name to cause a few waves.
Welcome down to the upstate. This is Mari.
And as always, I'm Matthew.
And today we're going to go to Ogdensburg, New York. Mm-hmm. There is a museum up there from about a very famous American artist. I would say right up next to Grant Wood, his artwork is probably the most notable American artwork.
Absolutely.
I know the first time I really made a connection with his artwork, I was in Oklahoma City, and there's the Cowboy Museum or Cowboy National Hall of Fame. I can't remember. I was a little kid at the time.
There's a lot of his statuary in there.
Yes. I remember there's like a Bronco rider bronze statue.
The most famous bronze statue I know of, and I don't know what scale it is.
Yeah.
Okay. You listeners out there, you can research it.
Yeah.
I'm always giving our listeners something to do. Sorry. I don't mean to be bossy. But anyway. Remington, yes. The famous
Fredric
sculptor,
Remington.
Fredric Remington, yes.
Yeah.
At the end of the trail. That was the most famous. With that beleaguered native on top of his painted pony.
Oh, he did wonderful Western art. He went out to the West quite a bit. Got a little bit of background information for you about Fredric Remington. His museum is in Ogdensburg, New York. Yeah. Okay. And his work really did help create our idea of the Wild West, really. I mean, if you think of pictures of the Wild West, you're probably thinking Fredric Remington's work. He was actually born in Canton, New York, which our family has a connection to because that's where our youngest went to college. So we've been up through that area quite a bit, and you can't get much further north unless you hit Plattsburgh and you hit St. Lawrence Seaway, really. I mean, you're going way, way north. Up, with this area. So it's kind of surprising if, one of the best chroniclers, best artists, chroniclers of the West was from northern New York, but he did spend a lot of time out west. The place is filled with a lot of his original paintings and sculptures. Like I said, the first ones I saw were actually down in Oklahoma. There's 3 or 4 other museums that have quite the collection. This place has the most because it was the home that was bought by his widow after his death, and she filled it with his artwork. And here's the interesting thing. The place is haunted, but not by Fredric Remington and not by his wife.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
By the actual person we're going to be talking about today. So I'm sorry if you're a Fredric Remington fan. You're like, yes, they're going to talk about Fredric Remington. Nope, sorry.
No, Fredric Remington will not be the focus of this podcast.
It's just
Instead,
we're going to be talking about a woman that in her day knew how to make waves and be scandalous, or at least that's what the rumors stated. But how much of her lifestyle was real and how much of it was gossip and how much was it confusion? We're going to try to discuss today. We may never know, really. Right. We might not know where the stories are, where the gossip is.
Well, who's the person in question?
Her name is Amigia Vespucci. I believe that's how it's pronounced.
Oh, yes. Well, let me get this out of the way, folks.
Yes.
We're going to have a word with the computer.
Okay. Computer.
Computer. Sei tu, por favore, in italiano.
Madame Vespucci.
Madame Vespucci, yes.
Madame Vespucci.
Her life, I would love to see a movie done with, I think Angela Jolie could play her. because she was described as quite the striking beauty. Mm-hmm. And I think Angela Jolie could really pull it off. This is a tale that's going to involve European nobility, even though it happens in northern New York. This is a tale that involves American political families and gambling. Gosh.
Ooh.
I mean, if I was trying to sell this as a script in Hollywood, they'd be like, what? Now, her last name may sound familiar to you. Because her ancestor was Amigo Vespucci, the explorers whose name was given to the American continent. So right there, she already has connections with America. Amigra Vespucci was born Elena Vespucci in Italy on November 29th, 1804, to Captain Amigo Vinciano and Leopoldano Capelli Vespucci. I apologize, my Italian. I've never taken Italian, and I apologize. I have Italian friends, and they're probably ready to smack me right now. But anyway, and she was sent to a convent. Elena, then she will become a Amigra. Stayed in a convent where she stayed for 14 years. But at the age of 17, she was introduced to the Grand Duke of Tuscany, where she stayed, and then took her sister's name. Megia. That's where some of this confusion...
So she switched the name. That's where the confusion begins.
That's where the confusion begins. She takes her sister's name. And her sister's still alive. So now I got two of them running around.
Perhaps that's where we get the two histories from. Is it split between
when we get to that part, I think that's fair. But at the age
I'm muddling the waters already.
When at the age of 28, she decided she had enough of court life and joined the
circus.
No, she joined a group wanting Italian independence.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Circus.
Stories said she disguised herself as a man. But
she did join the circus.
Are we going to have to hold a whole discussion of, like, monstrous regiment here or whatever? Which is what I thought of originally when I read that part about all the stories where she disguised herself as a man. I wondered how many of them were folklore and how many of them were... how much of this right here, I'm really wondering how much of this was the stories that were built up with her, around her. Yeah. There was some truth to this, as you're going to find out, but I just wonder, you find out a lot of gossip about her, a lot of gossip, so you wonder how much of this has been expanded. She disguised herself as a man to be with this covert group.
To easily, more surreptitiously, ease her way into the group.
Yeah. But then she became injured, and her secret was then found out. Probably not just her gender, but who she was.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right, there, young lady, who are you?
Yeah, because then she was banished from Italy. She was banished from Italy after that.
Oh, really?
Yep, and so she had to go to France, where she was...
weird, not funny, huh?
She then went to France, where she was given letters of introduction. Then she traveled to the United States, and soon found herself joining the upper class of social circles in the United States, including becoming a companion to John Van Buren, son of Martin Van Buren.
Okay.
She went from European nobility to basically American nobility, I guess.
Okay, now in Ogdensburg, the parish house was owned by George Parish, and his family were wealthy landowners in the area. He was also related to German aristocrats, and in 1841, he welcomed John Van Buren and his companion, Madame Vespucci, into his home. And one night the men entertained themselves by playing cards. And here's another one of the confusing legends here about Madame Vespucci. When Van Buren found himself $5,000 in debt at the table, he offered Madame Vespucci as a prize. And George Paris won her in a card game.
She was worth $5,000, basically.
Adjust that for inflation.
Oh, my God. When I first read this, I said, really? Really?
No kidding.
She was won in a card game? What? This woman who disguised herself as a man and basically was trying to fight for independence was won in a card game? What?
Yeah, fighting for Italian independence.
But...
it's an ongoing battle.
This fact may be disputed by her ghost.
Oh.
A psychic investigating the house in 2015 stated she heard Amiga Vespucci deny it. I was not won in a card game.
She emphatically lays down. She draws a line in the sand. Damn it. You heard wrong.
Whether she was won, and I'm using air quotes, won, or just stayed with George Parrish willingly, she did stay there for 19 years. Okay. And they never married, which of course was very scandalous at the time.
Well, but then again, you're talking about a strata of society that can get away with that sort of thing without being at least shunned by the immediate community.
Oh, but remember, you're also talking about Ogdensburg, New York.
Well, yeah, but it's time and place.
Okay, you're not talking about New York City.
Still difficult.
You're not talking about New Orleans. You're not. No, right. You're not talking about like San Francisco. Well, I don't think San Francisco existed at this time, or if it did, it was not really big. You're talking about a little town that's built up by lumbering and farming, and you have this.
A community that's built up by a lot of people who got dirt underneath their nails, building
and
an economy.
Have George Parrish, who everyone knows is related to these German aristocrats, this Italian woman who we are going to find out, there were already rumors about her that have already made the public in that area go, what is it about this lady? I don't think the public was, maybe to their face, was very polite and didn't say anything. But I think behind the backs, were very
kept
talkative.
Knives for each other's backs.
Because I did find, I will say that she did exist. This woman did exist. I found proof there was, you have county fairs, right? She was very good at gardening. She won a lot of blue ribbons.
Awesome.
Okay? She won the best salary bunch,
Well, that's terrific.
So this woman,
positive accolades attached to this.
So you can't say she didn't exist.
Oh, pardon me.
But there is plenty of speculation and doubt and confusion about her story, and even up to this point, you're going to find out that there's a bit of confusion going on.
It's raining outside.
Oh, what the heck is that noise? Okay.
What are those voices? It's just water trickling down the drain.
She lived there for 19 years. Well, what happened at the end was kind of interesting. In 1859, George Parrish had to return to Germany. Remember I said he was related to aristocrats. Right. Actually, it was Bohemia. Okay. To accept his title and run his family lands there. He became Baron of Seftenberg, but he left America
in Ogdensburg,
and she eventually returned to Paris to live with her sister until her death in 1866.
100 years before I was born.
Yeah. Her story does seem...
No correlation, folks.
Her story does seem very exaggerated at this point, and possibly made up. But there are numerous mentions of her. This first one I found...
Tales grow taller on down the line, as the song says. And,
This first one I found actually happened just before the card game. Okay? This first mention I find of her... This happened a year before the card game. It was from the St. Lawrence Republican, February 18th, 1840.
Page 3.
Page 3. America Vespucci left New Orleans on the 31st for Havana in a steam packet, the Natchez. The poor girl has not been able to make much out of Americans since they're not so gullible as she anticipated. Isn't that scandalous?
Oh, is this reference to Americans and anticipation of gullibility in reference to the men that she and women that she specifically met?
It makes you wonder.
Yeah,
this is a very negative thing. Very negative.
It does kind of cast a shadow on the name.
Now, this happened in 1869. This report was in 1869, which was 3 years supposedly after her death. And this was in the Ogdensburg Journal, which says Madame Vespucci in 1866, and before was mistress of the mansion. But several years ago, Parrish, it is said, paid her $50,000 to vacate his premises and received into his mansion a daughter born in Europe, who had reached womanhood and had married. The house now unoccupied, Parrish has left the place and has sold his personal effects and other valuable property. That puts a twist on the story, too.
Yeah. When you throw $50,000 into it, a chunk of property, there's going to be bedang in the hoosecow kind of.
So, was it a situation where he had to go back and leave?
Between claimants.
And they make it sound like it was a payoff money. Like, here, get the hell out of my face. Here's the money. Bye. But could it have been a situation where I have to go back to Germany, take care of my family?
Yes, please.
Here's $50,000. See yourself through. Could he have given it to her as a gift? It's not too clear in that. They kind of make it sound like he kicked her out. You know?
A daughter born in Europe.
Yep. What's interesting is that family didn't lose its lands until World War II.
Oh, well, yeah.
You know, that was an interesting fact.
A lot of those kind of properties that were supposed to be passed down through geniture were lost because, 40 million people killed. Yeah. So, a lot of shuffling.
They lost it to the Nazis state first.
Oh.
The Nazis claimed it first, and then
they lost it to the Soviets?
And then it was wherever Bohemia was, which was on the east or west side of Germany. I'm not sure where Bohemia was.
For shame.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's an interesting fact that there's a connection to Ogdensburg in Germany still. If you could find these lands.
Well, I'm Bavarian, so that's where my family's German name comes from. And so I know where Saxony is. I know where Brandenburg is. And I also know... Every time you mention Brandenburg...
Why?
Because that's where Berlin is.
Oh my God. Jeez. Jeez. I'm quarter German. I don't have that attitude. My God.
Hey, there's still a lot of rivalry between the states.
Well, whatever. Okay, now should I really throw another confusion in here?
Oh, yeah.
This was in 1866, November 30th, 1866. The Daily Journal from Ogdensburg, New York, died suddenly of asthma on the 22nd October at the 12 Rue Chenabrad Champs-Élysées, Paris, France. My French is worse than my German. America Countess Vespucci, known to our citizens as having formerly been a resident of this village for some 18 years. To many of our people, this is an unexpected announcement. Her death will cause a tear to start unbidden, for her natural kindness of heart was proverbial. Her manifold, ostentatious charities to the poor of this village will be remembered all the days of their lives. So as death, the common leveler of all classes and distinctions, reproaches with freshness and vigor the better remembrance and elements of our natures, it is still fitting that forgetfulness should wave her mantle over the faults and foibles which are mingled with our being. But yet, here's another account. This was in the Watertown Reunion, March 30th, 1871, 5 years later. Mademoiselle, who was naturally impatient and exacting, grew moody and discontented, and last returned was not greeted with much enthusiasm. She had strong appetites, and high living produced invaluable consequences. With advancing years, her charms had diminished, and she got to be corpulent, gross, and almost repulsive, and her friend was impressed with the truth of what the poet says about pleasant vices becoming scourges at last. She grew fretful and unreasonable, sudden malignity, occasionally threatening his life and her own, until the state of things supervised, which is insufferable. Some 10 or 12 years since a compromise was effected, and we last heard of America's Vespucci, she was living quietly in Paris on a handsome allowance, its payment being contingent upon her American friend remaining unmolested by the descendant of a man who did not discover America.
Ooh.
Wow. So this is written 5 years supposedly after death. They're still claiming she's alive, but now she's turned into this fat bitch. Use my language. Come on, Nick, we used all the word salad there. What else would you describe her as?
That is quite the word salad, for sure. By golly.
I mean, isn't that just horrible? 5 years after her death. Just being ripped apart like that.
To be slandered in such a way in this article. Where was it and when was it written?
This was written in Watertown, March 30th, 1871. She died October 22nd, 1866. She's gone from being, this wonderful lady of the community, and we all miss her, to she was a horrible old bat before she died.
I wonder how much of this was a hit piece.
Yeah.
To suggest that she, she faked her own death for the insurance, and now she's blown it and become Orson Welles. Basically.
French wine. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
We'll lush no wine until it's time.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Gosh,
wow.
It's incredible how figures like that, Wells and Brando, just kind of went to seed. And here's another celebrity, gone to seed, who's no longer attractive.
But they attack her so much after her death, but yet they make it sound like she's still alive. So here's the question: were they talking about her or her sister?
Well, that's the thing.
Because
she took her sister's name,
right? And on top of it, you had that lady they talked about earlier who was sent away on that steamship.
I looked at it online.
Yeah.
I couldn't find any leads.
I'm confused. I have a theory. And why there's so much confusion with this woman. There may have been a con artist who came in and stole her name. Okay. Because Vespucci? Oh, yeah. Well, we named our continent after we named America after him.
Yeah.
So it would have weight. So here comes this con artist using this woman's name that she may have heard was in France now, but kicked out of Italy. So thought, maybe she's stuck in France. She can't come anywhere. So comes to America. Nobody believes her. Do whatever she wanted to do. Leaves in embarrassment. But then the real lady comes in, who's already taken her sister's name. So you got two of them with the same name. Comes to America and finds her way into our society, and then ends up in Ogdensburg. And then, like I said, the situation with her and George, obviously ended amicable, I think, the way it sounds to me.
Yeah.
He had to go take care of his family business. She had to go take care of her family business.
Absolutely.
Leaving the house empty, she dies.
And with no official marital arrangement.
Right. They really couldn't do anything.
This also means they could then part ways.
Exactly.
Without, anything messy happening.
She dies, but remember her sister still has her name, so maybe it was her sister who turned into the fat.
And what was her motivation for taking her sister's name to begin with?
I think it was against, again, the thing of, remember my descendant?
Oh, right, exactly.
Elena would not be that rememberable, but a name very close to...
And she didn't have a very happy home life with her family. And when she went off to the, to join the Italian Patriots, and fight for... that cause, and then to be discovered after being wounded, and then not even getting as much as a medal.
Which is very. Can we do a little side here about the dressing as a man and that is such a common story. I mean,
it is.
Like I said, Terry Pratchett wrote an entire book about women dressing as men.
History is replete with such stories.
Oh yeah, and he used like every single trope to tell the story.
Oh, yeah. You might say the book, the narrative's kind of a strung together
story
of those tropes.
Yeah. I'm talking about
dressed in trousers.
Reed Monster's Regiment is very good, and in that situation, it is your typical. In the book, it starts with a young bard maid because that's all her parents have. I think can't remember if her father's still alive. I know her mom was. I can't remember now. But anyway. Her brother had died fighting this long war this little country was having with this other little country. They were constantly fighting each other. And so she decides to go fight, and she does the whole dressing up as a boy. And she'd served enough soldiers. She kind of picked up the mannerisms of soldiers, so she thought she fit in really well. And as you go along in the book, you start finding out there's more and more women disguised as men in this regiment. But then you also start coming to the realization there's not many men of fighting age left in this country.
Because especially in that region, when I picked out of Pratchett's story, is that there weren't many men of fighting age in that particular region.
Because the war had gone on so long.
Because the war had gone on so long.
But he used, going back to the tropes, her story of dressing up like a man to fight with these people.
There might have been a similar situation.
It could have been, or again, were people building up her story and using the tropes already of women dressing up. You know, I couldn't find any proof that that's what happened. It was a lot of, it is said. It was said. I mean, she did get kicked out of Italy. Mm-hmm. That is true. She had to get letters of recommendation from France, not Italy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That much is true. Whether she dressed up like a man to fight or that was just said later.
Well, now, wait a minute, Mari. You just said something.
Mm-hmm.
Letters of recommendation.
From France.
That's right. It doesn't matter where it comes from, so long as it's official. And the person who retained those letters of recommendation, what I want to say is the person who received those letters of recommendation would retain those letters of recommendation, forever.
Yeah.
So, which woman had the letters?
The one who was in Ogden.
Okay, but in order to prove she was this other woman who would be the potential imposter, would she find a way of getting a hold of those letters of recommendation as proof of who she is?
Well, see, that's something you could put in the movie that we really have no proof of.
Oh, okay.
So, again, if we're doing this in a movie script, there's so much nice twists and turns.
I'm sorry, folks. It's one of those pedantic things, pedantic little details that keeps me in a business like insurance reporting. I get stuck on them.
But here's the thing. But you're right to be confused. I mean, I was getting confused. Like, which one are they talking about here?
Right.
Are they all the same woman? You know, if she was a con artist, maybe she did make up the story about dressing up like a man and fighting and being in this convent and blah, 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 blah. Maybe she was the woman who was sent out on a steamer, came back a year later and did a whole different thing. Maybe it was two women, with this one using the other woman's name. So it is confusing. But as a character in a movie, I mean, wouldn't you be intrigued to watch this movie?
Yeah, it would be. It would be interesting.
But then it goes back to the story of her dressing up like man. I mean, a lot of women did.
I think it would make a great period piece.
Yes.
You know, if
a lot of women did dress up as men and fought. Okay, that is a fact. Boom. But could it have also been said about her to be kind of slanderous against her, too? Think of the time period.
Well, you know what?
Well, she had to dress like a man to do this.
That has to do with the circle, the immediate circle of people. But if you're talking about a society in a broader sense, many people have heard of these kind of stories where a woman dresses up as a man to, participate in a man's, what was seen at the time as being a man's work. Soldiering being one of them. Circling back to my service, parks, volunteering as a soldier in the 3rd New York. I got to come into touch with a lot of people, made a lot of social contact, that is, with, I coined a phrase amongst the troops there, that we have a variety of gentlemen.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
And in the context of having women serving as as soldiers in the 3rd New York with our group, and
but it did happen. It was
absolutely
historically it did happen. But again, was it one of these stories that came up about her? Because you saw how horrible some of them were. I mean, that one was just horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the last story you told about her being having gone to pasture.
Is this why she haunts the museum?
Okay,
the parish house?
Let's circle this back to the fact that this is a ghost story we're trying to tell here.
And there are people who've seen her. The psychic talked to her, and she's very adamant, I was not one in a card game. And like I said, I didn't believe that part of the story myself. Yeah. I really think what happened is, John's up there playing cards with George. She takes a liking to George. And basically wants to go, see ya to John. And to have John save face instead of saying, she dumped him. Oh, she was one in a card game. I don't know why that would save any face, but it would seem more appropriate. Even that sounds like bullshit to me. Well, I swore twice in this episode.
I think it has something to do with the immediate circle of individuals surrounding the issue.
I do think there was a definite attraction between George and her. Although one thing I read, they made it sound kind of like she was a kept woman by George, but yet why would he just cut loose when he had to go back to Germany? If she was a kept woman, and again I'm using quotes, He would have took her with him.
Folks.
I mean, he would have took her with him and set her up in Germany if that was the case. Instead, it was like, well, here's $50,000. We're going to go our own ways.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
because he had business to take care of, and she had family to take care of. She had to go live with her sister.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many stories about it, and a lot of it I know it's got to be rumor. A lot of it's got to be scandalous rumor. You know.
Oh yeah, other people trying to get their own names in the papers by mentioning this scandal.
I wonder how many of the other
we're the ones who broke it first.
The vegetable and fruit and flower growers. I got ticked when she kept winning all the ribbons. Would get go behind her back.
There's a jealousy there.
Yeah.
When the only goal are the accolades of your immediate circle socially.
And here comes this Italian.
Yeah, here comes this outsider.
Yeah.
Who just outstrips everybody.
Yeah.
In the group. Yeah. Mouths, tongues are going to begin to wag. Somebody's going to flap their gums out of turn.
But you know why I think she does haunt this? Because some people are like, why doesn't she haunt the place in Paris? Why doesn't she? I think this was the only place she felt at home. Think about it. She was shoved off to a convent. And then she gets out of the convent. She has to go live with this Duke of Tuscany in his court. And then she gets kicked out of Italy, goes to France, comes to America. She bounced around a lot. I think the only time she ever felt at home was in Ogdensburg. It was a unique living situation for the time.
Right.
Yeah, I can see why she haunts it. I can see why now she's reaching out to psychics, but no, I was not one in a card game. Thank you very much.
Let's circle the conversation back to Remington.
Okay,
and what's this got to do with Remington?
After Remington died, his widow bought the house.
All right.
Basically, that's it.
Then that's all.
She bought the house and turned it into a museum of his work.
Right.
Okay. Remember, Canton and Ogdensburg aren't that far apart.
Right.
So, she was still up in the area. I've always wanted to go see it. I've seen other places where it's work.
Yeah, that'd be a nice field trip.
But now that I know it's haunted by this woman, I would, like I said, I would love to see a movie about her. I would, there's so many plot twists and turns, and he says, she says, oh my gosh, this would make such a great movie. Somebody get on this right now. I would watch it.
No kidding. Yeah.
I would definitely watch it.
Yeah, it would be intriguing.
It's got all the court intrigue you expect in a BBC drama, but it happens in northern New York.
Oh, no kidding. And computer, what's that name again?
Madame Vespucci.
Madame Vespucci, yeah.
So
and yeah. What was the name she took from her sister again?
Amiga.
Yeah.
There's a GA at the end. But yeah, she's a very interesting character. There's so much rumor about her. So much talk. How much of it's real, how much of it's not, you really don't know. Right. And you saw how nasty people got about her.
Oh my goodness sakes, yeah. Right. What happened to the saying, or the old value, never speak ill of the dead here. But people, 5 years after her death, they were still, taking the piss.
Yeah. Well, even the one they wrote about her death, I kind of, the sarcasm with it.
No.
Just a slight sense of sarcasm. It's insane. It really is. You would not expect this type of thing to happen in northern New York. Really.
No, not at all.
New York City, I probably would have been like, oh yeah, that's par for the course then. Not in Ogdensburg, New York.
People get us wrong here, us Yorkers up here in upstate, about our culture, customs, and traditions. We got some big names here,
Yeah. We got this German aristocratic family. We had Steuben. Look who's buried here, Baron Steuben.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Steuben. Sorry, okay, if you're going to go that again.
Okay, we're not going to go through that again.
But yeah, but still, you don't expect it.
No.
Not Ogdensburg. Come on. Not Ogdensburg.
Ogdensburg up here. Yeah, no kidding.
What's it famous for now? That wonderful bridge between the United States and America. So yeah, she's very intriguing. I want to do more research on her. I would love to see a movie done about her.
Yeah.
Drunk Histories, bring her name back. Bring her back.
Oh no, not Drunk Histories. The last ones I've seen lately have been total trash.
If you get the right person, you got to get the right person to tell the story.
Yeah, you got to get somebody on there who can spin a yarn. We must be doing a good job because producer Honey here is sound asleep.
Yeah. Well, I think that's enough talking about this lady, and I'm sorry if you're thoroughly confused.
Vespucci.
Sorry if you're totally confused, because I am. But she still makes a good story.
Go ahead, research it. Maybe you can help us make sense of it.
But I do think those 19 years she spent in Ogdensburg were probably the best years of her life.
Probably.
And that's why she haunts the place, because that's her home. Yeah. And I bet she doesn't mind it being a museum.
Isn't that what ghosts do? They focus on the place where they consider the place where they need to be.
Yeah, and just think about it. It's a museum now. And that house is sort of protected. I don't think there's been much change to it, probably from even her time. Obviously, upgrades like electricity and plumbing and all that.
Right.
But, I bet she's quite happy where it is,
Well, I don't know. I don't know if any ghost could be happy.
Well, I have one coming up.
No, really?
In December. I've got this one. I'm keeping it for December for a reason.
Sneak peek, folks.
Because it's a happy ghost.
Oh, really?
So you can't say ghost can't be totally happy. This ghost is a very happy ghost.
Just in time for the holidays.
There's a reason why I'm waiting for December to talk about this one. It has a tie into Christmas, believe me.
At a time when the snow's on the ground and things look a bit dreary, we all need something to pick up our spirits. If you go through the old
British tradition, Christmas is the time for ghost stories. Not Halloween. Not Hallows Eve.
That's why Dickens' stories were,
Christmas.
Chock-a-block with spirits during the holidays.
Boy, we went off on a little tangent. That's the end of our discussion about this very intriguing woman.
Thank you for listening to our ghastly podcast.
Yes, have a good day. And we gotta remind people. Patreon, Facebook. Yes. Patreon and Facebook, the big ones. And we also put these out on YouTube. So if you ever can't get a hold of your podcast app, we can go ahead and go to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, we're on iHeartRadio. Yeah. We're also on Spreaker.
Although this last one with the 2 swears, I said iHeartRadio might be a little upset with us about that. But I'll bleep them out. Or there's something.
I'm sure. Oh, come on. I've listened to other programs. They've heard worse.
At least I didn't drop an F-bomb.
She didn't dive bomb the whole podcast. Yeah, no kidding.
So and like, share, tell other people about it.
Absolutely. Subscribe to our Facebook page.
I really would like a discussion about this lady because what are some other people's opinions about her? And could you believe that there was so much nobility in northern New York?
Oh, I know.
All right.
Yes. Well, yes, and thank you again for all our listeners, our members on Patreon. And looking forward to acquiring more. Yeah, always. It's always a big help. Once again for listening
to our ghastly podcast. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Unearthly Upstate. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, and on our webpage. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Podcasts, and CastBox. Please like, share, and review on your favorite platform. Unearthly Upstate is an Animator Liar production. The show is produced by Mari and Matt Manette, with purring provided by Honey and Lloyd. Research and writing by Mari Manette. Music is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Unless otherwise stated in the episode, the places mentioned in the broadcast are not paid or contact us for any type of promotion. Please check out our webpage for credit and sources for the episode. Thank you.